Curtain series where we take 10 minutes to have real conversations with real scholar moms about the journey behind the titles, the publications, and the leadership roles. This space is all about what people don't always see, the balancing, the building, the boundaries, and the motherhood that exists alongside the work. Today, I'm excited to be joined by my good friend, Dr. Jessica Calarco. We call her Jess. She is a sociologist and a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She is the author of Holding It Together: How Women Became America's Safety Net, and her award-winning research focuses on education, family life, and the ways policy, privilege, and power shape everyday's experiences. She also writes the Hidden Curriculum newsletter and is the mom of two beautiful children. Jess, thank you so much for being here.
Tina, thank you so much for inviting me. It's I've been so appreciating from afar the Mom Scholar Magic community and all of the energy that you bring to it. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. This is meant to be 10 minutes, so we have a timer and we're going to just talk through. So my first question to you, Jess, is what was your doctoral journey really like, and how did it shape you both as a scholar and a mother?
Yeah, so for grad school for me, I was very lucky in the sense that I figured out that I wanted to do a PhD while I was still an undergrad, and had the opportunity to work with some professors who really encouraged me and helped me get some research experience, and was able to make that transition straight from undergrad into grad school. At the same time, where I decided to go for grad school, my now husband, Dan, he was living in DC at the time working for a nonprofit. And I ultimately decided to go to Penn for grad school because it meant I could live at home with my parents and my younger siblings who were in high school at the time, which was a very weird way to do grad school on some level, in the sense that I was living in the suburbs outside of Philly, commuting in on the train every day, and then driving down to DC where Dan was living on the weekends. And I think at the same time, I think I had a good balance between academic life and personal and family life, in the sense that there's a risk for students when you let academia sort of become your whole world, when it becomes your whole social world, when it becomes your whole identity. And I think for me, having my younger siblings there, my parents there, my now husband there as a big part of my day-to-day life, even helping my younger siblings in high school, make lunches in the morning or having dinner with them in the evenings, it was a big part of how I now approach my work as an academic, which is to think about academia as a job, but not as my whole identity and my whole life. And that, I think, creates space for things like motherhood in ways that have been helpful for me.
So, yeah, I love that. I also completed my PhD in my hometown. So it's always kind of nice to have your family there. And Frank was there in Detroit at Wayne State University. So I connect with you on that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my next question is, what is your current research and scholarship focus, and why does it matter to you?
Yeah, so I think I have kind of two different tracks of research that I do. I do one set of research that's primarily on kind of families and motherhood, and one that's more on kids in schools, with a big focus on inequalities in both, but kind of different angles or different lenses on that. Coming out of, you mentioned my most recent book project that I published back in 2024, Holding It Together, and there's a lot of data that's left over from that book project, where I worked with a big team of research assistants to conduct this longitudinal project where we were following 250 families with young children over their first couple of years postpartum. And that turned into that one book, but we've got lots of leftover data. And so I have some projects looking at things like how moms are currently navigating pressures toward things like traditional breadwinner homemaker roles. In this moment where we're seeing so much rhetoric on those fronts, how are young women, how are moms kind of navigating those kinds of pressures in the face of the challenges to those kinds of arrangements economically and socially in their lives. And then I have another set of projects that comes out of some of my earlier research on kids in schools. And I'm doing a project right now with a bunch of my students, interviewing families about how they're choosing schools for their kids, particularly in the context of things like political attacks on public education, political attacks on sort of curriculum and DEI in schools, and thinking about how families are making sense of that rhetoric in the context of school choice in Wisconsin, where families have the opportunity to choose not only among schools within a district, but even to send their kids across district lines to different public schools fairly easily as well. And so that's another project that I'm working on right now with some of my students, which has been really meaningful to work on too.
That's awesome. It's good to hear, Jess. My area is special education and I work a lot in the schools. And so just to hear the work that you're doing and the projects that you're working on, that sounds awesome and
Thank
amazing.
you.
Okay. So, as you know, in the mom scholar community, we have moms who are, on the tenure track. We have moms who are full professors, but we also have a lot of moms who are doctoral students.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to balance between motherhood and, writing their dissertation. My question for you is a boundary or system question. It is, what is one system or boundary or strategy that actually helps you sustain both your scholarship and your motherhood?
This is a great question. Routines for me are a huge part of it. Like, I'm kind of boring in a lot of ways. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. I eat the same thing for lunch every day because for me, it's a way to take some cognitive energy off the table, to be able to pick my battles. I'm going to save my creative energy, save my mental capabilities for those things that matter more to me. And oftentimes that means saving space for writing, which I also try to build in as routinely as possible. And also saving space for time with my kids so that when they get home in the afternoons, I'm not so cognitively burned out that I don't feel like I want to engage with them, play with them, and have fun with them. And so I think that, for me, thinking about how can I build in as many routines as possible, whether it's, especially with kind of basic life stuff in ways to get things done. And also one of the things I work with regularly on my students is like with my students is how to build in regular writing time as a way to keep projects moving forward, even when it's really hard, even when meetings and emails threaten to take over the world. So those are things that for me are really helpful. And even just, I was looking at an article this morning about the cognitive impact that like notifications on phones and things like that have on our brains. And for me, like turning off all the notifications, making sure that I'm not getting constant pings from things that I can really sort of, when I do want to focus on writing, when I do want to focus on research or teaching prep, that I have that kind of lack of distraction for me is really helpful too.
That routines and turning off your notifications. Absolutely. I think for me too, I can connect with that. I try my best to keep my calendar clean. The way my brain works is in compartments. So I have like a writing day. I have a day that I work on Mom Scholar Magic. I have a day for meetings and admin stuff, and then days that I just teach. And that has been very helpful in helping me to navigate this space of academia.
Many different hats we wear in this job. Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. Okay, last question is, what are you building right now and what should we be paying attention to?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I don't know if I would call it a physical thing, but more of an idea that I've been trying to build with some of the recent work that I've been doing. One of the things that I argue in holding it together, which gets back to this question of building things, is that if we're going to push back against the systems that make life so hard for families in this country, and particularly for women in this country, that one of the things we can do is to essentially build what I talk about in the book as unions of care. And the idea here is that, we have these policies that try to isolate us, that try to delude us into thinking we don't need social safety nets, we don't need strong policy support, that try to divide us, by race, by class, by religion, by politics, by gender, to keep us fighting with each other instead of coming together to demand the kind of support that we all need and deserve. And so what I argue in the book is that if we start small, if we start with small community building exercises, if we look for ways that we can be in community with others around us to, particularly in times of crisis and times of challenge, help each other out, that can help to, break down those walls, break down those divisions, help us to see each other, to develop the kind of empathy that is needed not only to help overcome crises and make us all stronger in the short term, but also to help people see the need for and see the value in investments in larger policies, things like universal health care, universal childcare, that can benefit everyone. And I think I've seen some hope. We're in bleak times where it's easy to get depressed, but I think, some of the things that I've seen that have given me hope lately are communities like what we've seen, say, in Altadena, California, in the wake of wildfires, for example, with communities coming together and support, or in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the wake of recent, kind of ice takeovers and ice raids, communities coming together to support each other, to take care of each other's basic needs. And so that's both what I'm trying to build is this spirit of community and care so that we're holding it together collectively as opposed to individually. But I think that's something that also gives me hope right now.
I I really love that. I think, That type of mindset and ideology is what we need. And it's one of the things that I'm also trying to build with Mom Scholar Magic is just really trying to demystify all of these barriers that we see in academia, especially for moms specifically. So I'm right there with you, Jess.
Absolutely. No,
Okay.
I really appreciate this as a space of community on top of all of the insights that you provide people with as well.
Thank you so much. Well, we are at time. So thank you so much, Jess, for joining us today and sharing your journey, your insight, and all of the work that you are building. I'm so excited and I love just watching your journey. I follow you and all of the work that you are doing and posting online. I want to say thank you to everyone that has joined in from our community that is watching. If this conversation spoke to you, make sure you stay connected at Mom Scholar Magic through our newsletter at drtina'oneil.com for updates and resources in our upcoming webinar. You can also stay connected with us through our private Facebook community, which I will link down below or above, whichever platform this is posted on. Thank you so much, Jess.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tina. This has been a terrific conversation. Thank you.